So in June of this year, 2025, we took a team, mission team to Mexico, to Juarez, Mexico specifically, with various goals. One goal was to help the construction of a outreach center at the main church there in Juarez, and we did that. And we also wanted to go to an orphanage and do some things there. So those are our main two goals when we went. Of course, the third goal is to get to know the other people on the team and those kind of things. But from this church, from Fellowship, we took myself, my wife, Michelle, and then Miranda Odom and Levi Odom. That's really neat to have Levi on, since he's a young teenager and those kind of things. And then Sherilyn Torres, she was along too. And then we had a couple people from the Dexter area and a couple from Springfield, Missouri that met us there. So we really had to get to know each other, because most of us, even in our church, since we're so large, didn't really know each other. So we spent a lot of time at Agua Viva Church in Juarez. It's been a General Baptist church for 20 plus years. And there's another General Baptist church there, but we didn't get to really do anything with that church on this trip. One of the things about Agua Viva, compared to our church, it's very small. It's not very modern, if you want to use that. They are upgraded to not having just completely pews. They do have some chairs and things, but so their dining area or their cook area is pretty small, have issues with some electric and those kind of things. So the outreach center is also going to be their new kitchen area. And so they can now have, like what we do in a fellowship hall, they have more of a place to do that. Although they do a lot of things just outside, since it's so warm most of the year. So one thing that happened is our kind of team lead is a guy who lives over in Dexter, and there's an organization there that he's connected with that donated a lot of rice. And since rice is a big part of the diet of Mexico, he asked if we could take some rice with us. And so we took, I forget how many pounds, over 500 pounds of rice down there. And what they were using it for, they gave it to some of their church members, but then they also were using it as some outreach, and just some of the neighbors of the, right there by the church, they were given some to. And some of the, they had to have some electric work done for this new building. And so some of the workers that came to do the electric, they gave rice to. So it was kind of an outreach thing, and they were sending some to the another one of the churches down there too, so they could use it. So that was pretty interesting. And you might be able to see one of the church members and had received the rice, and they were just so thankful and happy. I mean, it's a pretty big bag of rice. So the outreach center is already being built, but so what we came along did is we painted the outside walls, and then went on the inside and did sheetrocking, some mudding, and just moving along the process. They're hoping to have the center open start of this next year. Again, use it as our outreach center. So they're hoping to do some auto mechanics classes and things like that in the building. And this was actually an idea from the former pastor of the church, who's kind of stepping back from that role. But it was kind of his idea to try to bring more people into the church. So it was really good. Of course, you can't help but paint without getting all messy. And so that part, some of us are a little bit messier than others. But so we did do a lot of sheetrock hanging. Another team was going back later to hang the drop-down ceiling and do those kind of things. So again, inside the building is going to have multiple classrooms. One of the pictures we have is of one of the teenagers' Sunday school class. It's a very small room. If they added 2 more people, they couldn't even fit in it. And so they're going to have 3 classrooms that will be open. So giving room for some growth. Of course, building this building is a lot, I guess, easier than building a building for here, because they're not adding air conditioning and those kind of things, because that's not what they're used to, and those kind of things. Back to having Levi go, and this teenager, it's amazing, because I definitely have a heart for teenagers. Just to see him learn, his openness to do whatever asked, and so he hauled cinder blocks, he did some electric, he painted, and just to see that, I think Miranda bringing her child on something like this, it could open up a world to Levi that just being around Poplar Bluff, he'd never get to experience. So that's always an amazing thing. One of the things that we did before sheetrocking everything was write verses on the 2x4s that they maybe never see, but it will be there. And so every day for lunch, the church ladies would cook us lunch. And so when we started doing the verses on the walls, we let the church people, invited them to do the same, and they just got such a thrill out of doing that. And some of the verses they wrote, of course, we had to translate, so we knew what they were, but very meaningful experience, because a lot of them don't speak English, and we definitely don't speak very much Spanish. So that was an experience. I want to thank the members of the church for helping take goods to go to the orphanage. We asked people to donate like a pair of shoes and a pair of pants and a t-shirt. And before we knew it, we had enough volunteers signed up to do that it was covered. But we also had people who donated a lot more. In fact, some people donated, money to buy extra supplies, and that was very helpful, because we were able to take all this material to the orphanage. And as you can imagine, orphanages don't get a lot of things, especially personalized. So we, every kid got those items, but also got a ball, some sort of a soccer ball or a baseball or a frisbee, something along those lines. And before we took it to them, we wrote verses on every one of those special items. And the kids, of course, just got a thrill out of getting anything. There was one boy who had actually got a baseball, and he said, through translation stuff, that he really liked baseball. We didn't know this kid liked baseball or anything, but the verse on it basically talked about God's love, but he couldn't read it. Well, he could read it, but didn't understand what it said. So he took it up to our team lead, Steve, and asked him to explain it. And Steve is fluent in Spanish, so he was able to explain God's love to this kid. And he's basically the oldest kid in the orphanage. And so just seeing that interaction, that's the whole reason for going and doing these things, is to share that love. This is kind of a Christian-based orphanage, but still he had to ask for an explanation, and that interaction was really good. So we're hoping that those verses written on those items will lead to more questions and opportunities. And of course, while we're there, the kids wanted to play. One of the kids, as soon as I got there, he just ran up and wanted me to pick him up and hold him. And he's about a little bit younger than my grandson. So of course, I'm happy to do that. And we couldn't communicate, but at the same time we could. And that was a very good experience. And we all had those kinds of experiences while we're there. As you can imagine, orphanages, they don't have a lot of, maybe people to show them love and that kind of stuff that we kind of take for granted a lot. And so we played chalk on the concrete, and I was able to throw the baseball back and forth with the oldest boy, and some teeter-tottering and swinging and just that kind of stuff. And it was hard to leave. We actually went there 2 days. So the first day was with the presents and the rice, and the second day was to do some work. Some of us did some work while the rest of us continued playing with the kids. But that time there was just meaningful, I know, for the kids, but for us too. One of the big things about going on missions and getting outside of our area that we're so used to is kind of expressed by looking at the border between us and Juarez. We spent the night in El Paso every night, so that makes it good for introduction mission trips to be in the U.S. every night. But one night we went up on this hill overlooking the border, and you can see the lights of Juarez, and kind of think about every house light and how many people that represents. That they're on the other side of the border. But when we're talking about God's church, it's not about a border. It's not about differences. God's church is worldwide, and I think we have a tendency of forgetting that and just kind of thinking about our own church or our own community. And we're supposed to love everyone regardless. I think God is a God that breaks down borders, breaks down our human desire to separate ourselves. And that's a beautiful thing. As you can see in the picture of the prayer that we did as a group, that prayer was kind of interesting because we had people praying in English and people praying in Spanish at the same time. And it didn't matter. When we first got there to Juarez, we went to the church service, and they tried to incorporate English into the service as much as possible, but most of it, all the singing was in Spanish. Most of the preaching was in Spanish. I was grateful that they tried to do some in English, but even though it was what we couldn't understand most of, it was still, you could still feel the spirit that again breaks apart those boundaries. Think about the day of Pentecost and the Holy Spirit, and they spoke in different tongues. It was so everyone can participate in God's kingdom. And I just challenge us to think outside of ourselves, think about how there are Christians around the world trying to reach out to other people. And it's not just about us. It's about the overall goal of doing what Christ wants us to do.